NFL's had a crazy history and there has undoubtedly been some intense and even hilarious moments. But what about those really embarrassing moments? Those ones that really make you cringe? Well, stay tuned because today we're discussing NFL players' most embarrassing moments on the field. Whether you're a fan of NFL or not, you are bound to enjoy this one. Let's get into it. First, we have the tuck rule. This first embarrassing moment brought up a rule that most players and fans didn't even know existed at the time and hasn't come up since. So what happened? During the 2002 AFC divisional playoff game, the Oakland Raiders were winning whilst playing against the New England Patriots. They were 13-10 going into the fourth quarter. The match was looking great, but something interesting happened that people thought would have ended this game completely. During the match, a heavy snowstorm started to come down, which left some players in a confused state. During an altercation, Charles Woodson hit Tom Brady, who was the Patriots quarterback at the time, and he dropped the ball. The Raiders linebacker at the time, Greg Bykirk, fell onto the ball, and the referees originally called it a recovered fumble, which was about to end the game for the Raiders. One referee brought up something that actually saved the game in that instance, which was the little-known tuck rule. They stated that because Tom Brady had been bringing the ball towards himself to bring it back into his body, this was ruled as an incomplete pass. With this, the Patriots had a new burst of life, which allowed them to win the game and then on to win that year's Super Bowl. This tuck rule was hilarious. Still doesn't make sense even to this day. Next up is the Yepremian's pass. What's more embarrassing than failing a pass in the NFL and making it one of the most infamous and terrible passes in history? Well, the story of that horrible pass is named the Yepremian's pass. It took place during the Miami Dolphins and Washington Redskins game. During said game, the Miami Dolphins were in the lead over their competitors, the Washington Redskins, 14-0. With just over 2 minutes of the game left, Jaro Yepremian set up the field goal that would have led the Miami Dolphins into a 17-0 game and would have given them the amazing victory to boot. He was setting up the shot, but instead something awful happened. As the ball was thrown, the Washington Redskins player, Bill Bredridge, blocked the ball, and instead of falling onto it, he picked the ball up and threw one of the worst passes in the history of the NFL. No, seriously, this pass was just terrible, and it's still on YouTube. The ball ended up slipping from Jaro Yepremian's hands and straight up into the air. He then batted the ball back up, and it fell right into the hands of the Washington Redskins quarterback at the time, Mike Bass, which led him to score the touchdown. This horrible pass became such an embarrassing moment for Jaro himself, and of course his team, the Miami Dolphins. You can find the infamous clip all over the internet to this day. Now we have Haynesworth's stop. When you think of a scoring play in the NFL, you'd think of the cheers from the crowd and the immediate aftermath of joy for the team, right? Well, all of that was happening during a match in the NFL during 2006, but something else happened that would change this player's name forever. During a match in 2006, Albert Haynesworth was playing. He was known for his dominant defensive tackle, his laziness, and his undisciplined nature. This all came to a head when during a match he stomped on the head of the Dallas Cowboys lineman, Andre Gurode, after the Dallas Cowboys scored in the match. This attack created a terrible wound on the head of Andre Gurode, and it led to him having around 30 stitches after he was treated in the hospital. Albert Haynesworth was promptly suspended from the sport, but only for 5 games. This may seem like a pretty short amount of time to be suspended, right? But at the time, it was actually the longest NFL suspension for an on-field incident. After everything was said and done, Andre Gurode did not seek any criminal charges towards Albert Haynesworth, but everyone thought that he should have. What do you think? Should he have followed up with the law? Let us know down below. This was such an amazing moment for Albert Haynesworth that he was not being professional and really showed his true colors that day. Stay tuned because these next few are just insane. What about the coin flip? This one's a little crazy, but did you know that a coin flip is sometimes used in the NFL? Well, it is used mainly for overtime. During a Thanksgiving game in 1998, overtime was being called, and the referee at the time, Phil, tossed the overtime coin to see what could happen. When the coin landed, Jerome Bettis said it appeared to be tails, but then Phil Luckett insisted that Bettis had firstly called heads and then switched his words to tails. This result meant that the Lions were awarded the ball and scored their first possession. This went on to win them the game, so who was right? Was it heads or tails? Well, we know that audio recordings support the claim of heads switched to tails, and this led the coin toss to be seen as arbitrary, and the nation went wild when it was exposed for being incorrect a lot of the time. This moment was very embarrassing for the referee involved, and this specific incident actually led the NFL to introduce some more rules for overtime. These were introduced in the playoffs of 2010, and it seems like the league is now comfortable with this one. Before, they were never really comfortable with any overtime format. Whilst this coin toss debacle was embarrassing at the time, it has become a really funny moment for the community around the NFL to laugh at. But what about the Bounty Bowl? The Bounty Bowl is something that usually comes up when people think about the most embarrassing moments in the NFL. So what happened? Well, it was November the 23rd, 1989. The Philadelphia Eagles had just defeated Dallas with a 27-0 game. Oh, and all this was on Thanksgiving. This game would later be known as the Bounty Bowl because of what happened just afterwards. The post-game started with some allegations coming from Dallas's coach, Jimmy Johnson, directed towards the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Buddy Ryan. He said that Buddy Ryan had taken out a bounty on Dallas Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman and kicker Luis Zendejas. If you don't know, a bounty is where a price is laid out for knocking out a specific player out of the game. Something only the shady ones in sports pull out, but it's used to happen a lot back in the day. The allegations were hard to deny because Zendejas left the game because of a concussion caused by Eagles player Jesse Small. Of course, we saw Buddy Ryan deny these insane allegations, but it actually happened again just a few weeks later. Whilst we don't know what actually happened, it was really embarrassing for both of them to be called out like they did and gain all of that attention over basically nothing. And finally, are we running in the wrong direction? To end off this list, we have a really funny and embarrassing moment from the 1960s. This was early in the NFL. So what happened? Well, Jim Marshall was one of the best players at that time, and he was under the Minnesota Vikings. He was a defensive player for the team and was famed as one of the best players for that team. October 25th, 1964 was a funny day for all and easily one of the most embarrassing moments a player has had on an NFL field. During a game against the San Francisco 49ers, Jim Marshall had one of the most mind-numbing and embarrassing moments in the entire history of the NFL. He's just recovered from a fumble and then ended up running 66 yards to the end zone. Threw the ball down, celebrated his touchdown, and all was well, right? Well, in actuality, Jim Marshall had actually run towards his own team's end zone and scored a point for the enemy team. Even with this funny moment, the Vikings ended up winning that match. And that's the end of the video. The NFL really has had some hilarious and embarrassing moments, right? What did you think about the ones we covered today? Let us know in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on. Thanks for watching.